Hey everybody, it's February and it's mild and I'm in the garden. So I'm going to do a vlog today and show you what I'm getting up to. You can see I've got peaky cheeks, I have no makeup on, I apologise, but I just went straight out in the garden and wanted to get this video done. So let's get into it and have a look at the job you can do in February alongside a mini garden tour. So I left a few of these leaves on in the autumn, well actually November, when I gave them an initial tidy up because these were all green still then, and that was enough to obviously give them plenty of energy to get going. However, the leaves have now fully crisped off, so I'm going to give those a good tidy, which will then really get all the energy into these beautiful blooms and the buds, and it will just keep on encouraging it to get all that energy in there to keep on budding and blooming for as long as possible. I love my hellebores. We're really lucky. These were here when I moved in and when my partner moved in many years ago, and they've just established and they love this spot. So the more I can do to encourage that, the better. So we're going to give these a good trim, and it's a good little tip for you at home if you didn't have a chance to do it in the autumn or you've got a few left. Give them a good cut back for February now. As deep as you can go, as close as you can go to the new growth without damaging the new growth, and that'll get all the energy back into those roots to give them more shoots. So here is an example why you don't pull out hellebore stems even if they look this bad, because they're so strong at the base that they could just pull out the actual flower that you want to keep. Anyway, all is not lost, because that will go into a vase of water and go into the house and I can enjoy it from there. But yeah, so make sure you always snip the growth that you're taking out. Some of it will pull out, but I pulled this one by accident. I thought I'd cut it, and unfortunately I hadn't. Gave it a tug and the whole thing came out. So make sure you always cut your stems rather than just yank and pull, because you don't want to do this to all your lovely shoots that are coming up now. There we go. So that's all my clumps of hellebores, neat and tidy. I did a little bit of weeding as well. There's a few I've missed, I've just noticed. A bit of weeding. The grass is going to need trimming soon, which is mad because we've got a bit of mild weather. All of a sudden it's growing. I won't worry about that yet. The main thing is these hellebores are looking nice and clean and healthy. Oh, and the sun's coming out now as well. Here's all my lovely trimmings. They're going to go into my compost heap. I'm not going to leave them on the top to put the nitrogen back in because they're so thick and they're strong. It would just look a mess and it would take ages. So these are going to go straight into the compost bin instead. So you can see this bit's got quite messy. We've got weeds coming up, and also this is Veronica. So I did a vlog earlier in the autumn, well last year in the autumn, and I've done a little trial. So I've trialed cutting back Veronica pretty much late summer, early autumn, to see if it will make a difference to the growth, and it actually has. So this one I left and it looks really straggly. However, the ones that I cut in the autumn recovered a little bit quicker and have got more clumps of growth on, and I think they will probably end up flowering earlier. But actually If that is the case, not a bad thing, because I'll get a succession of flowers, as I've got about probably 9 clumps of Veronica gentianoides in the garden. So actually, hopefully it might work out for the best with my little test, actually by accident as well. So I'm going to cut these back now, have a little weed and a tidy up, and hopefully make things look a little bit better. So I've got loads of birch in the garden. I actually like to keep that because it's really good at keeping pigeons off early seedlings later in the spring, and also they make for really good Easter trees as well. So get that out of the way and keep them nice and protected. And I'm cutting this back quite hard. I'm not actually worried if I nip some of the growth, it won't hurt. It will just encourage it to get going a little bit quicker. So I'm going to cut this back nice and hard and in deep and clear up the mess. Those are all the old dried flower stems, which I'm going to chuck also into the compost heap with hellebore clippings. Nice bit of roughage there for our compost. Got some nasty thistles that actually self-seeded last year. I left them in for wildlife. They looked absolutely awful, and they've just taken over the garden now. They've got all these horrible seedlings. They're so spiky and really sharp. The older they get, the more spiky they are. So I'm going to take those out now to get on top of them. So I've just spotted an iris that I thought I lost last year after all the heat and then too much water and wet following. You can see where it's rotted, but actually it's got growth coming up, which I'm really happy about. So I'm just weeding around that. I'll have weeded around that, and hopefully this year it will come back and give us some. That'll be amazing. That'll be an actual bonus, because I thought I'd lost that one, so that's brilliant. And I got that in the sale as well for like £1, even better. Also got some lovely daff bulbs coming up. Some of these are some that I've planted, some that were here and they've spread. So they're coming up really nice and healthily, and actually not too quickly. We are in Feb now, so the fact is I'm quite glad that they've stopped growing so quick now, because hopefully they won't flop over too quickly when they do come into flower. Anyway, I'm going to weed round these. So weed round any of your bulbs that are coming up, just to give them plenty of air and light, and make sure all those nutrients are going into the bulb ready for flowering season, which is just around the corner. Very exciting. So there you go, you can see it's looking much better as soon as it's tidying, cutting back both hellebores, Veronica. We've also found around the weeds that my iris is coming back from last year, which is really good news. Loads of daffodil bulbs coming up. There's some crocus at the back there as well. So they're going to have lots of nice, plenty of air going around them. There's the hellebores in the background. Really good just to get all that focus and energy focused into that bulb. So hopefully we'll have a really good spring display. And also now that we have odd warmer days, although next week it's going to go back down to minus, but when it is warmer like this and there's a bit of sun, things start growing. So keeping on top of the weeds is key. I have got more to do around the corner, but I'll probably do that in a couple of days. I'm just doing a little bit at a time. I have actually got a cold, as you can probably hear. So my advice with gardening really is, don't push yourself. Just do what you can do when you want to do it. You don't have to do a whole job in one go, especially at this time of year, because even though things are starting to grow, it's not mad. You can keep on top of it if you just do something every few days, even once a week. I could come back to that in 5 days and finish it off, and it's not a problem. So anyway, there we go, looking much better. And also I've just cleared the soil around here, so that's the first signs of life of my dicentra bleeding heart, so that's also exciting. This is what I love coming out of January. As long as, yeah, it's such a long month, isn't it? It's major, but actually things are waking up. There's things going on under the soil. I just showed you a clip of my sedum, so the seed heads of the sedum are still looking really good and dry, and I love leaving the dry heads on. They look good with frost on, they look good now, they're really deep and brown. But then under that you've got the crowns coming up of the foliage, and they look so pretty. I'll just flash that up again so you can see, but I just love it. Sedums are great, and there's loads of things like that in the garden. I do it with the verbena, which is starting to look messy now, so I'll cut that back in a couple of days. I can do a little video on that for you as well. It's another good job for February. Cut back any flowering, I'll show you actually, that's a water butt that needs putting up, but any flowering you see right over there, the verbena that needs cutting back. It looked really good during the winter, but now it's starting to look scruffy. There's the sedum. There's a buddleia that needs cutting back and moving. So things like that we can look at now. Sorry, my washing's in the background in the window there. You can start looking for little jobs you can do to get ahead of the spring, but like I said, take your time. Little bits, little and often. Tuesdays when it's obviously warmer and milder, because it's easier to work the ground and you're not going to do as much damage to the plant. And when it's frosty, take the day off. Look through seed catalogues, look through bulb catalogues, look at videos that I make. They're inspiring, hopefully, and helpful for when you can get out in the garden. Just take your time. You don't have to rush gardening, and now is a great time to get on top of it, so you don't have to rush gardening when the spring does come into full swing and everything is growing. It just makes it easier to keep on top of. Obviously it's time for a coffee break as always. Just taking what we've got to do left, finish emptying that pot. Actually, whilst I'm here, I'm going to make a little list of other jobs that need doing. So we've got the water butt to go up, with the water feature to fix in the background, cutting back the verbena, cutting back the buddleia, removing it. In the background we've got a few bits of junk. That chest of drawers is actually going to be a DIY that I do for here in a few weeks' time. I've got my palette in place over there. You can see in the background that's going to be planted up and made into like a living green wall. So I've got lots of exciting projects to come up. Make a list of what I need to do, but for now I'm going to enjoy my coffee, and then we're going to crack on with last minute tulip bulb planting, and then put all our rubbish either in the green bin outside, that'll be the weeds that I don't want to be putting in my compost, and then just check on the compost bin itself and put any bits of hellebore left in there, and then we'll probably finish up for the day and relax. Another job to keep on top of during February is to keep on feeding the birds. Now we are still in frost territory and minuses, so nuts are a really good source of protein and good fats for the birdies to keep them moving and keep them nice and warm through the colder days of this month and even into March. So I'm going to top up my little cheapo bird feeder with these nuts, because they seem to love these more than the seeds at the moment, which is fair enough. That's what they're looking for, that's what they're looking for. I'm going to top those up now. It doesn't take too long to fill that, so I'm going to fill that up completely now, and then they'll be ready to feed again. So another good early job to get going is, if we are having a few mild days through February, things will start growing, and also if it's damp and fairly warm, we'll also get slugs back. So I've noticed actually that my sprouts and the one cabbage that came up, my one winter cabbage, has been demolished by slugs. I've also got a little lupin that really struggled last year with the slugs, and I was too late putting eggshells on it, so completely missed the season. There are shoots coming on it now, so I'm going to scrunch up these eggshells into little pieces as much as I can, and then I'm going to go and put this around the base of the lupin. It's just a barrier, so they don't like crossing the shells. Now last year it was actually something that I tried properly, which I have done it before, but properly last year on veg and on flowers, and it did work. So I'm going to do that again. It's a good way of using up eggshells, byproduct of an egg, without using pellets or anything harmful. We've got a dog and there's local cats around, so I don't want to put anything that's going to hurt them. So let's go and apply that now, and it gets us ahead of the game if things start growing and the slugs and snails find their way out of their little dormancies. So that is a tiny little bit of growth, and you can see the eggshell left from just before, well, Christmas, November actually is when I applied it last. So let's get applying now to stop any snails and slugs. So, as I mentioned, I have been doing tulip planting. I know, naughty, super duper late, but we are literally on the last couple of weeks where you can probably get away with it. So I'm putting my bulbs in now, nice mild few days and a bit of wet before we go into minus. So let's just get this job done. So I'm left with Black Hero. There's lots of other varieties I've planted today, so I'll show you what those are later in this video. I just thought that they would look really good around the pink hellebores, because they will still be flowering just as they're coming in, so they'll turn from one to the next. And also I've got daffodils in this little border here, and they are centre of the garden, so that'll be something nice to look out to. And I also thought, with the water feature in the background that you can see, once that's cleaned up and topped up, the black against the reflection will look really nice as well. So Black Hero, actually more of a, they say it's a black tulip, but it's actually like a really deep purpley browny black, but very nice and glossy. So I'm going to pop those in and show you how to do that now. And that's all the tulips in. I've planted over 100 this afternoon. I did plant like another 100 in the autumn when you were supposed to plant them as well, so it's a good mixture. We'll see actually which ones come up best. Anyway, I'll crack on with that now, and then we'll get on to our next job. So you want to plant tulip bulbs about 3 times the depth of the actual bulb itself as a rough guide. The deeper the better, because it will anchor into the soil more and actually prevent things like squirrels digging them up. So I'm going to go to as near as 3 times the depth as I can. It might be a bit difficult because there's a lot of roots here with the hellebores. So, but that's the ideal rule of thumb. So 3 times the depth that they are. Okay, so I've just found some tulip bulbs already in there I've forgotten about, so I'm going to bring those a bit forward and replant those. They won't harm. But yeah, nice find actually, because I didn't realise I had some in here. So I'm probably going to go a little bit more to the left, just where they are now, and then actually if they're coming up, then there'll be a nice spread of different tulips. I've got a feeling those will be pink, so they won't clash, but they'll probably complement each other. What a bonus find for the day. Another casualty that will go in a nice vase of water, but it'll look beautiful. And as you can see at the back, I haven't gone as deep because the roots from the hellebores, they're quite tangled and tight up here. But anyway, it won't detriment the bulb. Also, it's close to the container, which means even though they can't anchor as deep, they're less likely to flop because they've got a bit of support behind them. So anyway, I'm going to do these last 2 and get them in as deep as I can. Quite a few brambles and weeds that I'm going to be putting in the council green bins. Don't want those in my compost. That's a good day's, well, afternoon's work. So also keep on composting. So you can see the hellebores that I chopped off earlier. And then I'm going to put my veggie peelings in here. I put all sorts in here. Eggshells broken up, a bit of paper from Farmer Gracie bulbs I've just planted for some roughage. Old plants that have died, unfortunately some cyclamen didn't quite make it. Peelings, cuttings, a little bit of twigs from our birch tree. Again, it just helps add a bit of fibre and some bark and aeration when this compost does break down. So that's, well, there you go. It's a little bit of inside information into my compost bin, just what you wanted to see on this vlog. My garlic coming up nicely. We have a big problem with pigeons and squirrels. Not so much squirrels at the moment for these, thank goodness, but pigeons. So I'm covering the tops to try and stop them pecking them out, because they will. But they're looking good, looking good. So yes, Mr. Squirrel, I've got these lovely spiky hollies in place because I noticed yesterday I had a fluffy grey thing mooching around our borders, going for the bulb areas that I planted. That's the last thing I need. After planting them late anyway, I don't need Mr. Squirrel, Mrs. Squirrel, digging them up. So I've got some holly that I hadn't chucked out the house yet. Although it's gone brown and dry, it's still spiky. So I'm just placing a few bits, or tucking a few bits into the soil where the majority of my nice new tulip bulbs are, and hopefully that will keep them all at bay and away. You could also use twigs spiking up as well, or covering where you planted them. It's just a bit of a deterrent, and hopefully this will help me with the pigeons as well that we seem to have a problem with, digging things up and nipping little shoots. So that's just a little tip on how to keep your squirrels at bay, or hopefully prevent them from digging up all those lovely bulbs that I put in yesterday.